up, spooky nerds? Aaron Sagers here, host of the Talking Strange show and podcast with the Den of Geek Network, and I have traveled to Monroe, Connecticut. I'm standing in front of the home of Ed and Lorraine Warren, famed paranormal investigators. In fact, perhaps the most famous paranormal investigators. Now, for a long time, the Warrens had the Occult Museum, where they collected a lot of haunted objects and possessions. Tony Spera, the director of the New England Society of Psychic Research, who handles those artifacts and is now the caretaker of all of those items. We're going to talk a little bit about 28 Days Haunted, the new series on Netflix, starring Tony and me. That's right, I'm part of it too. So come with us, nerd out, and let's get spooky.
You stay back!
The 28 Days Haunted thing, though, is very special to us because it's actually based on some of the theories, that Ed and Lorraine had about the longer you stay, the more psychological drama happens too, You really dig deep into the unpeeling the layers of what might be there,
What I'm excited about is it premieres October 21st on Netflix, and we have 3 teams of investigators at 3 separate locations,
yes,
embedded for 28 days, and this is all happening simultaneously, so you have all of this taking place at once. It actually does make a lot of sense to me that regardless of what someone believes or not within the paranormal, if you spend a few days in one location, you start to get a little stir crazy. You spend a week there, maybe, who knows what will happen. You spend a week there with, I love you. If I was crammed in a room with you for 28 days, it starts to get a little intense. This is a pretty crazy experiment.
Like fish starts to rot after 3 days. It's the same, or a company comes over your house and they're good for a day or two. After that, it's like, when are these people going to leave, right? And the cool thing about the 28 days thing that we're talking about is not only the psychological thing with the interaction between the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
The investigators getting on each other's nerves, perhaps, or one trying to best the other or know more than the other. The egos get involved. It's not only that, it's that the longer you stay, the more the ghost or spirit might be like, when are these people going to leave? They're not leaving. Well, maybe we better do something to have them leave, scare the heck out of them. You don't know. You may be drawing the ghosts out even more the longer you stay because they're playing a wait-and-see game. Most people go and investigate a house for 6 hours, a day, maybe 2 days.
Right.
And then they leave because the ghost is laying dormant.
Or because they've rented the location out for only a night. Or maybe the case, they have to move on. They have jobs or whatever, and a light just went out. Maybe that was a ghost.
But remember, most people investigate for 2 days, so they're not getting to the crux of what's happening. In other words, the ghost has been hiding for 2 days, hoping these people leave. But then after 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, now the spirits are like, I don't want them here anymore. They're not leaving.
Yeah.
We have to do something to make them leave. So maybe you're drawing out phenomena. Who knows? That's the experiment. That's part of the experiment.
Well, and with the paranormal, a lot of I very much approach it with theories, but like you said, there's no rule book that we have, and it doesn't operate on a schedule. So if you're there for 2 days and nothing happens, it doesn't mean that a place isn't necessarily not haunted. It just means that you didn't pick up on anything.
That's right.
When you have a time limit of only being in a place for a day or 2 days or whatever, if something cool happens, if something really compelling happens, you're still on a time limit as far as okay, now we got to wrap it up and move on. Whereas if you have an entire month in a place, that provides you the flexibility to try a lot of things, to build on what you've already experienced and to keep pushing it further.
They're going to use the spirit boxes. They're going to do perhaps the Estes method, various experimental things that they're going to try and equipment they're going to use. After they use all this equipment for, say, a week or two, then all they got left is themselves and their own abilities and their own psychological aspects of what's in emotions, of what's happening here.
You know, I'm drawing from a lot of history and a lot of theories, and you're drawing from your own experience, but also a legacy. And I'm curious, did this show provide an opportunity for you to go back and look at old case files or notes or anything from Ed and reflect back on some of the things that Lorraine told you? Was this like a bit of a trip down memory lane as well as a trip into the archives for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything we learn, we draw bits and pieces from. So when I watched what was happening, some of the trauma too that was happening on this show and the exciting parts that I'm not going to talk about until I watch it, I remember Ed telling me certain things about why things like that happen. You know, that's why that happened, you know, Tom. That's why the guy was screaming. Or that's why he's at wit's end, because the ghost or the entity that's there is malevolent. Just by watching. So I draw on the information that I learned, and of course the information that you know, and you meld it all together and you come up with these certain theories of what's happening and why, you know. By looking at it, all three of those places had stuff go on that is unexplainable. Unfortunately,
Lorraine passed away in 2019, and I know Judy is involved in Nesper as a co-director.
Yeah, co-director.
It's really been your charge to kind of carry on the Warren legacy right now. How does it make you feel to be doing this show on Netflix, sending it out to a global audience,
right,
and also talking about the Warren theories, in this new medium?
It makes me proud. It makes me proud to know that I work with the foremost psychic investigators of our time. You know, Ed was one of the pioneers with Lorraine. Of course, there was Hans Holzer, and before Hans, there was Harry Price, too.
Sure.
But they were the real motivating factors behind what's happening today. We're bringing it more to the fore of people believing in the paranormal. And what I mean is, Ed and Lorraine took the slings and the arrows back then. There were times back in the 60s and 70s when they were heckled greatly, where people would say, "Do you really believe it?" Ed would talk about ghosts on his lecture for 2 hours. And then at the end of the Q&A, somebody would raise their hand and say, Ed, you really believe there's such a thing as ghosts? And Ed would be highly offended. He'd say, "What do you think I've been talking about for 2 hours? What you just said to me is one of the most insulting things you could have said. Asking me after 2 hours of telling you what I believe, now you're asking me if I believe in ghosts." He used to take highly offense to that, because a lot of people back then didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to know. Now it's mainstream.
Yeah, it's not a fringe topic.
And now it's like paranormal's, now it's almost like, now it's a reality.
It's almost normal.
Yeah, they're like, okay, paranormal's fine. Oh yeah, they don't laugh when people say there's a ghost. Now they seek out and want to know more. And that's what Ed always used to say. He goes, "I want to spread the word that ghosts are real."
So do you feel like this show is pushing theories forward and, you know, kind of exposing it to yet another generation?
I think so, for sure. Exposing it to another generation and trying to dig deep into why these phenomena happen and why they linger, to why something could be haunted 400 years ago and is still haunted today. Why? And other places could be haunted for one day and then it's gone. So we tried to delve into all of that too during the show to get to the root of why these things happen and what they mean. You know, what our lives mean. And is there life after death of the physical body, which I know and you know there is. We're always trying to seek more answers. We're never going to have all the answers, Aaron. We're never going to have them. But we're trying to get as much knowledge in this realm as we can before we get to the other realm, which we all will.